Hi everyone, Religious Fanboy here again. We are discussing the lessons and themes that are paralleled, excuse me, in Erased Episode 4, titled Accomplishment, where we will be discussing the situation that for anyone doing any form of ministry needs to address, and that is moments where we will feel the need to do all that we can to help people, even in times where it feels like we failed, and the need to be reminded of hope in response to our failure that is necessary in order to overcome the shame and guilt that comes with it. The the verse for today is from Psalms 37. The verse we're specifically focusing on is Psalm 37, verse 24. Majority of the Psalms are thought to have been written by King David. The specific passage alludes to the suffering of Israel, the hands of their enemy nations, but is also meant to be a reminder of hope and reassurance in response to the hardships being faced by the nation of Israel. Um, which says specifically verse 37, verse 24 of Psalm 37 says, "Though he fall, he shall not be cast headlong, for the Lord upholds his hand." In this episode, based on history of the kings of Israel and the book of Judges, as well as the sins of David, we could interpret this to be their suffering in this moment that is being referred to as either a response to the punishment for disobedience, or and specifically in the form of the conquerings and attacks by enemy surrounding nations of Israel, and that moment of suffering is alluded to in the verse 24, where it talks about though he fell, um but when it goes, and then when it continues to go on to say that he shall not be cast headlong, it is could be used and interpreted to convey that even in this time of suffering that God is still with them. And many of the commentaries also interpret this phrase of saying in this verse that he shall not be cast headlong to meaning that the suffering that he faces now is temporary, um and we see through his actions of wanting Kyle to be safe, the sacrifices he made, such as standing up to his mother, I mean, standing up to her mother, and his continuous practice of waking up early and going to Kaio's house, wanting to make sure that she is still alive. and that being something that he does consistently every day leading up to their birthday. And in the end of the episode, it is revealed that Kaio was kidnapped and killed at night. And starting at the end of this episode with the revelation, and for the next few episodes, we see Kaio, we see Satoru have to go through the grieving process again and continues to beat himself up because of his failure to keep Kyle alive. And some text analysis stuff that I wanted to go over, specific, which I've already referenced some of it. That is used to is a Hebrew word that in the ASV is translated to headlong, being not a location, but as a way of some of the other synonyms are casting out, and hurling, with the term cast and casting out being affiliated with the word that was used. Headlong could be used to allude to, even though he had fallen short, the Israel that is being personified as he in the psalm is not cast out from God, just like with Satoru, which we'll see later on in the episodes, that even though he failed to save Kaio, this was still a learning experience for him, and that he did manage to push the date of Kaio's death back, in the sense that Kaio was killed the night of her birthday, not the night before. I in the original timeline. And The another synonym, some of the references from the Kohlenberg / Muntz Hebrew Aramaic Dictionary. It makes references to the casting out of Pharaoh in referring to one of the plagues, as well as the hurling of Judah. This section gives the synonym into exile, and with this interpretation of being cast headlong as being in exile from God, and Toro's mindset, his failure to keep Kyle alive, being something to that casts away his hope. We see throughout the show that his hope, even though Satoru does not acknowledge it or see it in the moment, in this moment, how it is the faith and belief in him by others, such as Eri and his childhood friends later on, that encourage him to keep trying and gives him the hope and encouragement and help that eventually leads to being successful in what he needed to do. The other thing that could be taken away, and that is a theme that we will expand upon later on, is the importance of delegation, and in Christian life, understanding our callings and what our ministerial responsibilities are within that, in the sense that in this episode, he did manage to prevent Kyle from dying on the day that she did originally. But the show also makes a point of saying how worn out and tired he was from the exhausting work of trying to save Kyle by himself. And this parallels the idea of, and the important reminder of, understanding that we need to be working alongside God in doing what we are called to do and not trying to do what is right purely on our own energy. Because if we try to do the things that God has planned for us and is calling us to do without praying about it and trusting in God and calling upon His energy, we will be able to make progress on our own, but we will not be purely successful and experience the joy and peace and the fruits of our callings until we are humble enough and transparent in asking God and the other people around us for help. And with that being said, may God be with you, and I will see you next time. Bye. Um, yeah, I'll. I might do a villainous scene discussion video. I don't have an idea for a lesson yet, but if I do, that will probably be a Friday thing. Um, and with that being said, I hope and pray that you all took away from this video and the episode in the script and from the scripture whatever God intended for you to take away from them. And with that being said, may God be with you, and I will see you next time. Bye.